Are you an overwhelmed SaaS founder ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those you don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where our passwords are so secure they contain letters, numbers, emojis, doodles, and dolphin noises. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you scale up and exit, creating premium valuation impact and the freedom of running your business instead of your business running you. I remember a number of years ago, a competing solution was hacked. And it was messy. Someone asked me if I was happy about it, and they were kind of puzzled when I said no. I mean, pretty emphatically. And as tech founders, we have to get data security right every single day. One slip up and we're vulnerable. Take a day off and literally we could be done, out of business. On the flip side, hackers only have to get it right once, which is kind of a scary thing. But a few years ago, we were buying some office furniture from a company. It was in the same building as us, and they had a server room in the office, floor to ceiling racks, and on a cart was a keyboard monitor, the KVM switch that connected to the different servers. And on the side of that monitor was a Post-it note with a list of server names and passwords. And if you just groaned, yeah, you're my kind of person. Yeah, and I'm not immune to being lax in password security in the past. I used to have a Word doc saying with some ridiculously boring name with a bunch of stuff in it. It's probably not much better. But, there I let the IT manager know that the Post-it note didn't seem very secure. And I didn't mention that the passwords were weak too. Company name and the year is a bit predictable. But, it had an exclamation point at the end of it, so I'm sure it checked all the minimum requirements. So he agreed password storage system, could use some improvement. And so I went on about getting the furniture that we got ready to move, pretending not to watch. I'm just kind of doing my own thing over here. And I saw him take the sticky note off the side of the monitor and stick it on the bottom of the keyboard. Well, I tried. Well, today's guest has created a system that helps protect us, even when we really don't understand why or how. Sometimes we deal with threats that we know. Others we don't know yet because it's a changing landscape all the time. But either way, I think we can all do a better job at security. I mean, vigilance is a must. Like I said earlier, the hackers only have to get it right once. And it's helpful and comforting to know that it isn't all on me. It's not all on my dev team. It's not all on our infrastructure team. Or, maybe some visitor playing Post-it note police. That there are solutions out there that can help us move forward. And that's what today's episode is about. Today's episode is sponsored by the book Small Fish, Big Pond, Building a World-Class Business That Swims Circles Around Competitors. So why do some companies achieve explosive growth while others sink into the depths? What do exceptional SaaS companies do that mediocre companies don't? And what can SaaS leaders learn from the world of fish? Small Fish, Big Pond delivers powerful business lessons guaranteed to change the way you view your business and includes hands-on exercises and growth tools to get lightning fast results. Over 50,000 entrepreneurs have put this book to work in their companies since release. Unlock special bonus content as a SaaS Fuel listener. Best of all, 100% of the profits go to charity, whether you choose hardcover, paperback, ebook, or audio. Get your copy today at smallfishbigpond.com, Amazon, or your favorite book source, wherever that may be. In our last episode, our SaaS Fuel expert was Irvin Ang, a super talented copywriter and marketing strategist who knows how to engage and convert leads via email. So if you aren't extracting the gold from your email list, this is the cure. It's a great episode. And our founder last week, PK Agarwal, founder and CEO of the Fifth Ingredient and the SaaS Beer 30, as a data-driven SaaS for craft brewers. Great insights about narrowly focusing on a market and being the expert in the market. So if you missed either of those episodes, queue them up and give them a listen next. Our guest today is Hugo Sanchez, CEO of rThreat. Hugo is on a mission to revolutionize the cybersecurity industry. With over 12 years of experience in technology sales and business development, Hugo is living out that mission in his creation and leadership at rThreat. I don't think I've met anyone with as much passion for cybersecurity as Hugo. and just love his commitment to protect his clients from threats known and unknown, because it's a changing landscape out there. So welcome with me, innovator, visionary, and disruptor, Hugo Sanchez. Well, hey, Hugo, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Hey, Jeff, how are you? Thank you.
Very good.
Happy to be here.
Well, tell me a little bit about your journey from being in sales and security and now starting your own cybersecurity firm, rThreat.
Yeah, an exciting journey and very, very joyful. Well, it's, I think it started as anybody and then trying to get a job and become a real man, if you will. I have to do this and get a job and become an example for my next generation.
Sure.
And that was to me when I moved to Seattle. That was when I started getting serious. Start joining a technology company called F5 Networks. It's a big tech name. But it took me a solid 2 years when I found my passion to be in front of people, bring them solutions. I think is when I found my track. From there, I started being from Mexico and growing up in Mexico and then moving into the US and getting that cultural shock, and then trying to adopt it the best way and take it. That's a big challenge. That was a very big challenge. And then just getting into a real world-class ecosystem of professionals, right? We're competing with colleagues and friends. We're graduating grads from UW, from Seattle U, from all these nice colleges. But I guess my advantage is bilingual, right? So
Sure.
The natural fit to me was like, okay, I can sell in Spanish and I can just use. So I started my career, developing programs for business development and for F5 Networks and other Microsoft partners. And that has been my journey. From there, I guess moving into the founder's life it was the right time, the right people. One of my colleagues and good friends, Jesus Garcia, which is one of the master engineers and masterminds and a phenomenal human. He showed me his project, his idea, but he showed me something that he already has a product. And he was like, well, with your expertise and I'm living in the US, how can you think this could be a viable opportunity to take this product somewhere? So that was like, as a challenge, not only, being there for 10 years in the US, I learned a lot from mentors, managers, and I knew what I wanted to be and I knew what I didn't want to. I never wanted to be.
That's just as important, right? Knowing what you don't want.
Yeah, and also on different organizations with different cultures, and that I think that rounded me really good, or I was better situated on where we want to take this idea. At that point, it was a cool product, and here we are, like almost 3 years into rThreat, and we finally getting the momentum, the traction, the attention from big vendors, big partners, managed security service providers, which is who actually gets the use of our technology, and the feedback is like, you guys are a niche technology, and it's going to take a minute for the industry to grasp what you guys bring to the table, and it's going to be a fun journey. So I guess that's my 2 cents on that. The journey has been exciting, and I think there's way more to come.
So what makes rThreat unique in the cybersecurity space?
Good question. So we think about cybersecurity as a whole industry, as a defense mechanism. So they automatically, you think that you're going to put a shield in front of your data. And organizations that had the approach that it's being implemented by the compliance sector, right? You have to defend, you have to put technology frameworks, et cetera. What we thought is that no one is taking attention or taking steps on the adversarial world. Nobody understands how the adversaries or the adversary will try to break in. So what we created is a platform that can enable defense teams to become attackers within the organization. So instead of hiring a very solid or a very good hacker or ethical hacker, or hire a service provider that will do penetration testing and all this compliance exercises they're mandatory for the organization. We enable basic engineers to become attackers. So that's to us, that's a huge help for the industry, because not only are you going to save time on getting all those trainings and certifications and all that expensive stuff that not a lot of organizations take. We're only going to get that training in the platform. It's going to be easy to use. And day one, they can start attacking their infrastructure in order to see what the real defense is doing, like the real defenses and how their posture is, and identify those gaps and patch and remediate it in time and manner that really aligns with the business continuity. So in simple words, we enable humans to become attackers or hackers. We don't like to use the hacker, the H word, but
Right. That sounds a little scary, but at the same time, really useful within the organization.
yes, because at the end of the day, the human element of the whole cybersecurity program is like the humans. We're the weakest link on the chain, and we're gonna click on the wrong link. No matter what, no matter how many trainings we do, we will.
It happens. Absolutely. It's one of the things I worry about, running an organization.
And they say, there's two types of organizations: the ones they know they have been breached, and they want the guys that they don't know they already have been breached. So that we need to start taking that approach. Like, are we probably breached? Like, then what are we going to do if something happened in that specific area, right? Again, this is an idea that we're trying to change. It's a mindset that you can be an attacker, and therefore you're going to be understanding what you're defending, because now you know how to break in, and now you can reverse engineer your path. And before we just put barriers in front of something, you don't even know if they work, because when they really see it working, sometimes it's too late, because it's like, oh, it didn't work, but guess what? We have a ransomware attack.
And that happens a lot.
That happens a lot, and I think in the past 2 years we have seen we have seen the change from the regulatory perspective as well, because last year President Biden signed an executive order where it states that all the public and the public and the private sector need to adopt a zero trust model. And basically, that's an ideological framework that you have to validate, control. You need to know who you're giving access to, what and why, and never trust on the training. And if you check did you poke something and it was good yesterday, you need to poke it tomorrow and make sure it stays good. And that's something that has been changing. Or one of our advisors is the creator of the Zero Trust framework, John Kinderbach, who I give. He betted on us. He saw the technology. He saw what we had, and to me and to my partners, it was like, oh my gosh, he liked what we're doing. This is great. So with that, I think the whole mindset of the entire industry is shifting towards the continuous validation, making sure you're safe, keep going, but train how your analysts or your humans will respond. And that's going to be a fun. Still it's growing. We're getting good attention from the private and the public sector, and they want to use or theses to create training programs, or theses to create response programs. And there's we have an initiative down in Costa Rica that the government wants us to create a framework that will include this validation on a periodic basis. So a lot of things movements in different countries, different regions, and it's exciting. It's something that is it's joyful when at the end of the day we're like, oh, today we talked to this government and we talked to this enterprise and huge logos that could not disclose, but we're like, oh yeah, wow, that's awesome. So then it's fun to look back and say, like, it's been like a crazy journey, but I think it's paying. I mean, we've seen the results now.
And it's a very different model than kind of the traditional, once a year, maybe once a quarter, you have some penetration testing done and call it good and hope that you stay good until the next time that happens, whether that's 3 months down the road or maybe next year.
Yeah.
And so having that constant valuation or evaluation.
And the great point, Jeff, because the bad guys are well prepared, they're very smart, and they're well organized. They have a lot of funding behind because they created a new market. Like ransomware as a service was a huge impact. Like those ransoms were not cheap, and there are people paying them because they just don't want to risk their customers. They don't want to be risk exposure. The way they come up with new techniques, it's faster than the way we come up with new defenses. So, and think about a big vendor creating a firewall, right? And it's deployed across the globe. These guys are not going to go try to poke the firewall. They're going to hire an insider. They're going to find social engineering, and they're going to find the guys going through a crisis, find them, send them the right email, click, you're going to get a gift certificate for your kid's school that you're struggling to pay. Boom, click. All of a sudden, you're in the network. You didn't have to jump the firewalls and all this. This guy's already in. So how can we do that and enable the users to do those drills? Well, that's where we're solving. Like we think, people are buying technologies and a vendor cannot come up with new products every week. And the attackers come up with new techniques every week, which is the scariest part.
It does. They seem to be much more sophisticated, much more organized than they have been in the past, and that's continuing to increase.
And they're the future. Like every day, there's every 11 seconds, according to the Ponemon Institute, every 11 seconds, an organization falls victim to a cyber attack. And with that, it's like the money spent into this deployments. It's huge. It's crazy. Sometimes it takes months to deploy a new architecture when these guys are already like coming up with new techniques, because nothing stops them for buying these technologies, right? It's not they can impersonate themselves as a legit business, get access to those firewalls, reverse engineer everything, and start preparing malware for it. That's how we saw it. It's like, why don't we enable everyone to become attackers so they can do that? And now they decide for themselves what do they want to buy. They probably don't need to buy that much. They just need to buy specific things just to get by compliances, but then spend more time in training your engineers. Like, all right, if we get this ransomware attack, we're going to isolate the problem in 5 minutes. And our goal is next month to do it in 2 minutes. And our goal by the end of the year is to do it in 30 seconds. So that's the only way we can become resilient, effective, and sharp. And it's as Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan.
Until they get hit.
They get punched in the face.
That's right.
Let our threat punch you in the face a couple times.
It's a lot better than a tabletop drill or a test.
That's what's available. Usually you bring third parties to do it for you.
Sure.
And that's the other thing. Like when you want to tabletop vendors, test before you buy. But stress test them. Do not, when the vendor shows up, they show you the demo, everything lights up like a Christmas tree. Oh my God, it works fantastic. As soon as they leave,
we have no idea.
As soon as they leave, they're like, hey, there's an alert here. What does this do? Right? Equifax breach happened like that. They just bought a big deployment on, I don't know, it's public, but a big household name. And the analysts didn't know what does it look like in a real exercise, in an attack. So it's like, the vendor was like, no, we were reporting. We were telling you. You just didn't know what you're looking for.
Nobody's looking at the alert. So again, it comes back to the people, and they have to understand what it is that they're looking for.
Or if you train the Monday to Friday, but the weekend guy missed that training, and it was in the weekend. And,
there's probably a reason for that.
It's all this you start getting into the weeds and the nuts and bolts, and you start thinking about like, how are we, this big organization is taking, like my kids go to school in a public school district. My information is in the DOD, and all those guys are like, I can ask like, hey, how are we doing? Are you guys doing what drills are you getting that hardened in your defenses and your responses? it's hard to get to that conversation because then it feels like a threat, like a security guy that has been 5 years in the gig. You cannot ask that. It's like, oh no, we got this.
Right. They don't want to say that they're exposed.
Right. But this is like a fair question. Like I just ask everyone and their organizations to say, hey, are we protected against the malware that hit the industry yesterday? And the answer should be, we were, but we were able to fix it in 20 minutes and we're fine.
Right. That's what you want to hear. That's not the reality most places, though.
Their answer is, I think so.
Yeah, I think so. That's the scariest answer from a security person. Yeah, I think so. We're probably all right. So how is SaaS and just the SaaS model overall, SaaS adoption, how has that changed security and our vulnerability as founders and entrepreneurs?
Well, I mean, SaaS is the way everything has been adopted these days, and that's why when we decide the architecture of our technology, it was like it has to be a SaaS model, because then we can enable, again, no matter how big the company is, it should be able to test with what it's important. So having a SaaS offering, I think it will enable everyone in the whole maturity against capacity curve in cybersecurity are getting the perspective or the visibility they need. So without being SaaS, I think it just, it could be, just excluding the 70% of the industry, which is the SMB space. And that's how we're getting a lot of tractions. The other part is when we look at the whole industry as a whole, different verticals, the SMBs are being served by the managed security service providers. And the managed security service providers have never adopted technology like this because it was very expensive and wasn't SaaS. So what we saw in the space is that we need to bring something that is available to everyone. So our customers can be a big enterprise or an MSSP, a local MSSP in Oklahoma, or a local MSSP in Pittsburgh. Services their local markets with small and big organizations. So to us, that was the way we designed our technology. And I think everybody in a B2B model, it's the way it's supposed to be.
So as a founder, how do we know that we're secure? What are the things we should be thinking about or talking with our engineering teams about to know or have the confidence that we're secure, our applications are secure, and that our clients' data is secure?
That's a tough one because nothing is secure. The reality is like,
right, if it's connected to the internet, it's not secure by definition, right?
By definition, you just need to plug the cables. And you'll be secure. Well, the only thing we can do, or one way to take this problem or try to tackle it, because it's a huge problem, will be just spending time understanding what's your team, what's the strengths and the weakness, and work on the weakness. And that's the only way we can have better cybersecurity programs, cybersecurity analysts and professionals. And the technology vendors are good if you know how to use them. Like there's no such a thing like a bad, cheap vendor. No, they all have their great. Those are great ideas. But it's a matter of how quick can you isolate and mitigate that risk, and it becomes a risk mitigation or reduction conversation. Once you talk about that, it's like, well, I'm not going to, there's no silver bullet that it's going to stop everything that doesn't exist. But what I can do is enable my team or my humans to become faster, agile, and smarter. And that's the only way we can fight this battle. At this point, that'd be my strategy. If I was I'm never going to be a CISO because that's the hardest job in the world.
It is. Huge respect for those guys.
Huge respect for them. So it's like, I want you to become the best CISO, because then you're going to be thinking about your team and you're going to be given the tools that they not going to get in the next 5 years. And the other problem is, like, when you get talented people, a lot of people want the talented people. So as soon as they start putting certs on their LinkedIn profiles, they're in the market. So then how can you retain good talent without giving them all the certs, but making them efficient to you, treat them well, invest in them, and they stay with you, and they will help you be successful.
So how can incident response teams evolve and stay ahead of attacks, ahead of the latest threats? Because it seems like there are threats all the time. So what can they do, particularly engineering teams or, incident response teams? A lot of times those are the same. What should they be doing? What should they be thinking about? How should they evolve their processes?
I mean, that's a fascinating area of cybersecurity, the offensive side. Like if you think about if you go to school, like in Mexico, you grow up, you want to be a soccer player, right? So no matter what, you just want to be in the field all the time and playing, and because your dream is to be there. I think in the IT space, when you get into computers, it's because you want to know how to break them and understand how they created. And that's a natural behavior of a hacker. An ethical hacker will understand everything, the process, what's behind, try to dig in, try to fix it or break it and put it back together. So I think if professionals start taking more or will take more offensive training programs, then those incident responders will have come out of school with actual training and skills. So not only understanding defenses, but you need to understand responses and tactics, right? So it's about tactics, techniques, and procedures is what the bad guys use. So why don't we train our incident responders with tactics, techniques, and procedures? And there's one example I like to use when the firefighter, the firefighter they start with the test, they do physical tests, heavy. Right. But they need to learn. The physical is the first. The second is the techniques, how to hold, how to plug how you carry the ladder, how do you put your what gear goes in where, what kind of fire. All that is theory, but they need to practice. Otherwise, they can have the best 4.0s, but as soon as the fire goes on, you need to know what you're going to do. And not a lot of the analysts get to fight the fight or get in front of the hacker. That doesn't exist unless you go to the DEF CON conference and specific type of training. But again, it's training. It's after the fact that you already went to school. As soon as you get to school, you want to get a job. So my idea is with rThreat, eventually we want to work with universities and give our technology for free and start creating programs. And that to us, that could be or help to the community. Like we are a North American company. We want to help the U.S. The community, North American community. Again, the good guys, doesn't matter where they live. They should be able to train against the bad actors.
Sure.
And I guess that's how we see it. And the firefighter, they're not going to start leading a building on fire in the first exercise. They start with a little bonfire in the campsite.
Right.
You start back in your backyard. So go back, put the fire, and see how quick can you turn it off, right? With water. If you don't have water, what would you do? Blah blah blah. And then start building that fire pit. Then eventually you throw a car, and eventually you one of those Home Depot sheds, throw it on fire, put a little dummy inside, see if we can get it. That's kind of like the digestive message of what rThreat does, but with real malware. So we have the capabilities to create our own malware. And it's like bonfires. Here's the car. Here is the building. You put those, we give you the fire and we give you the tools to turn it off. We're getting, as I said, we're very excited because of feedback from good, big, small, and all this. It's across the board. It's has been positive. Like, we liked it because now we can enable these guys to become more efficient, and now our program looks better.
Love to hear that. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to ask Hugo about the most important lessons that he's learned about mentors and about the biggest myth in cybersecurity and what the truth is around that. Right after this.
Today's episode is sponsored by Small Fish, Big Pond, building a world-class business that swims circles around competitors. Why do some companies achieve explosive growth while others sink into the depths? What do exceptional SaaS companies do that mediocre companies don't? What can SaaS leaders learn from fish? Small Fish, Big Pond delivers powerful business lessons guaranteed to change the way you view your business and includes hands-on exercises and growth tools to get lightning-fast results. Get your copy today at smallfishbigpond.com and use the code SaaSFuel to unlock special bonus content.
Well, welcome back to SaaS Fuel. My guest today, Hugo Sanchez, CEO of rThreat. And so, Hugo, tell me a little bit about some of the lessons that you've learned as a SaaS founder in the cybersecurity space.
Some of the lessons. Oh, where to start?
That's a lot for all of us, right?
Well, founder in the SaaS space and cybersecurity, it's a very complex environment because
it is.
We're surrounded by we're trying to play into an arena which is very competitive. We have a lot of great technologies out there having a fantastic value props, and I think the challenge was the first one I could say it comes out of my head like right off the bat is the bringing a cutting edge technology with the experience from being in the space. Again, I come from SaaS, but not from cybersecurity. So I think that was the first who you're a first time founder, but where you came from? Like if I came from big vendor, like for any big names, that probably would be an easier journey or experience. And the second one is I think we came in with a very strong product and with a very low entry cost. Cost of entry was very little. That they're like skeptical, like, oh, it sounds scary.
Good, right?
Yeah, it's like,
it's not just expensive.
Yeah, it sounds powerful, and they're expecting like the 6-figure proposal. They're like, no, I mean 40% of whatever you're paying today with another route. And our strategy was let them use it and feel comfortable, and then a lot of people wanted to use it. And being SaaS, that gives you that flexibility because again, the development, the UI, everything was done to the journey, and I think that was the advantage. And we learned from that as well because we were bootstrapping the company, and the projection. The other thing is every projection that you think you've got is wrong.
Right?
No, at months and at zeros.
That's absolutely true. I think every SaaS founder has experienced that. Is that the projection is always wrong, and things take longer and are more expensive than you ever think they will be.
But something that we did good is like we invested in a lot of time and our team, our engineers. We bet on them because we got them fresh out of college. We have invested like 4 years in trainings, and we did a lot of diligence on finding the real skill set, but mastering to a level that it is hard to get. So with that, our technologies, it's state of the art. Like have seen investors not believing that how much we spend on just developing this, and it's because we had spent time in finding the right people, but also training them, continuous training. We're always improving, and they would. I think they would stay with us for a long time. And I think that was a good lesson. Like really invest time and train them, prepare them, invest, and they're gonna come through and do those sprints, those hard tickets. They'll come, they help it, they'll fix it, and they will support your vision. And there's no such a thing like a vision without the team. And the team, we have to invest and rely on them. And today, what we have, it's because of them. And we're a very small, humble team, but they're very smart. Like it's amazing.
That's good. You're really building for the long term. It's not just trying to get something out the door, but you're building the team, investing in them, investing in their education. They're buying into the vision because you're building something not just to flip in a short period of time, but really building something that has value. And whether you decide to sell, this year, next year, never. Whenever that day comes, you really built something for value, not something that's disposable. I think that's really admirable.
And you're spot on, because my other founder and mastermind of the technology had that vision, and this product was thought like draw 2.5 years ago, and still it's today, May 2022. It's still edgy. Like they're like, whoa, it's like scary. So with that, it's like you're exactly right, absolutely right. We have a roadmap. What we have today is a phase one. Then we're going to apply artificial intelligence into it. Then we're going to have that behavioral experience of the organization managed by humans. So we're going to bring artificial intelligence to humans. And I think everybody's taking it the other way. You're going to bring humans to artificial intelligence, and it doesn't work like that. So I think that's spot on. And our base, those engineers. We're preparing them to be leaders. They all want to have their teams, and then based on how we train them, we ask to everyone who comes on board. They're gonna go through the same process, and they're gonna invest time and create the next leader of that team. So down the road, our goal is to have a team of 60 engineers with the base, and then they will have the same capabilities. So
that's really, really helpful. A good way to build.
I guess we have to be very resourceful when we're. I think it's all strategy.
Yes,
you know this,
yes.
and I think that's been our strategy. How can we can play in the big arena with this much resources?
I love that. Just the constraints and the creativity and ingenuity of bootstrap companies. I just love that.
Yeah, and it could be stressful. It could be harsh. There's some days. There's bad days. There's worse days. There's some good days. But it's what we're doing it for. What we're doing. What we're building. And I think when you get, by the end of the day, when you get to talk to your wife or your kids and they're like, yeah, we're trying to build something secure for the future for you guys. So
that's awesome. Well, tell me one myth about the cybersecurity industry that we all believe is true that just isn't.
Only one?
Well, maybe you can save the other ones, but no, if you have more, let us know. What do we believe that isn't true?
Well, I think the most without like beating on the drum that everybody talks about, like it's just the big one is the more you spend, the safer you are, right? But it's on regards to technology, and I think it could be applied the more you spend in training, the safer you will be. But today, unfortunately, is the more you spend in vendors or technology and hardware or SaaS too. But I think it should be a balance, and that's one of the biggest myths, right?
So just because I spend 6 or 7 figures on software doesn't make me secure.
Exactly. Or, I'm in one of those cloud providers. My application lives in that cloud provider. My database lives there.
It must be secure, right?
Yeah.
That's scary.
If you read the fine lines, it's like we give you the storage, we give you the bandwidth.
Right.
You need to protect that. It's in the cloud, but it still need to put your defenses. So I think in a lot of professionals in the space that we've been talking to a lot of them, and backgrounds and sizes and budgets and so on and so forth. At the end, when they open up, finally say, I wish I spent more time understanding my analysts, because I have a great engineer. He is fantastic, but he left because, he got another, a $10,000 increase. So I never understood. He's like, I never understood what he's really was motivated. Never get to them to understand the person, to get them to, if you don't understand your team, you never spend time like getting the due diligence on them. You're never going to be, your program is not going to be sustainable.
Right.
And I think it comes down to invest time on your people and help them be better prepared, right? You're not going to buy a ring or or trainers, but you can just do, so much, but create a program that it's good for you. And those myths will go away, because again, the bad guys will show up no matter what. They were probably already left and they never left the tracks. And And the difference between a good hacker and a bad hacker is that the good hackers, they never get caught.
Well, it's because you never see them. They're in, they're out, and you don't know. That's the really scary part.
That is the scary part. And then when you grasp that, they're like, okay, I guess I can take a look at this. It's like malware doesn't sound that scary when we talk about that. And in the other, I mean, a good piece that I get from a CISO is like, once you tell them the truth to the board, like, yeah, we were breached, but nothing happened because it was mitigated quick. They're the different atmosphere. Everybody lives in fear, and cybersecurity is based out of fear, and that's from the get-go, like a bad starting point, I guess.
So, what role have mentors played in your success?
Starting from the coach, and 6-year-old when I want to be a goalkeeper, and he's like, "No, you're not going to be a goalkeeper."
That's, a lot of times it does start that early.
Yeah, no,
coaches
but
are hugely influential on us.
Yeah, but I think the best mentors I had was in my professional experience. I did my BS in pharmacology, and I learned a lot of like the science validation piece. Mm-hmm. But when I really understood what how to build things, and that you're gonna, no matter what it is that you're trying to do, you're probably gonna get it wrong in the first place, and that you don't have to beat yourself up. Just come back and do it again and again and again until it's up to your standard. And if you want to do it perfect, it doesn't exist. Like perfection doesn't. It's just an ideological thing. And I think that was rounding every single mentor, manager, and friends because at the end they're also your mentors.
Yes.
You're gonna get, well, that's what I get to. And now trying to apply that to with my kids and my wife and the family, and once that's something that we can make resonate, it could be good for, I mean, I'm talking about from the company perspective, that we can, if we build that into the culture of the company, I think any company will be a fun place to, or fun idea that's going to become a product and it's going to be successful.
Well, Hugo, where can we find out more about you and rThreat online?
Well, you can go to our site, rThreat.com, and or look us up on LinkedIn. We are. I wish I said, we're in Gartner. No, we're not. Not yet.
Not yet. But
yeah, look us up. We have we have a YouTube channel with a lot of content. We have our own brand of cybersecurity podcast. It's called Coffee with CISOs, that we're going to launch the second season. We're going to do a Latin America season, and then we're going to do a North American one.
Fantastic. We'll make sure and link that in the show notes too.
Yeah, for sure. And then we'll let you know when the first episode comes up.
Yes.
We try to, but now we know, but we met a lot of fantastic, phenomenal mentors and people that we can bring them to the show. And everybody wants to talk about the bad guys because it's something that they want to. So we're going to open up a safe environment where you can talk about, like, what's your nightmare, what's your worst nightmare, right? But yeah, look us up. My Hugo Sanchez at rThreat.com or look us up on LinkedIn. We're in Bellingham, Washington. Anytime you're in Bellingham, Washington, let us know. We'll walk you through the little beer tour, microbrewery tour, or take you out of the islands or something like that. So
there you go. Bellingham is fantastic.
It's a fun place.
It is. Well, thank you, Hugo, and we'll make sure and link all of that in the show notes. And thank you for being on the show.
Jeff, it's a pleasure. Love your background. Keep it up, and thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks again to Hugo for coming on the show and sharing your journey, insights, and passion for cybersecurity. Learn more about Hugo and rThreat at rthreat.net. That's easy to remember. It's the letter R, threat.net. As always, all links, highlights, resources, full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. So please subscribe and follow us while you're there. You can do it all at saasfuel.com. everyone who subscribes this week gets a foolproof password strategy. Just set your password to the last 10 digits of pi. No numbers or special characters required. Guaranteed 100% uncrackable. Join us again on Thursday on our SaaS Fuel Expert Series for a conversation with Jeremy Miner, founder of 7th Level. Jeremy developed an approach using behavioral science to make sales easy and effective, even if you don't think you're great at sales. And if you are, then this is going to make you that much better. And our founder next week is Marcin Chacon, founder and CEO of PriceFX. Marcin has created an outstanding next-generation pricing solution that brings pricing to the people and built an international company of over 400 people in the process. So wait till you hear about the Red Shoes Around the World tour. It's pretty cool. So be sure to check us out next week and up-level your sales on Thursday with Jeremy. And until then, as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/SaaSfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.